Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we are. The quantum mechanics. I can never quite get the timing right with that. I'm either a little bit too early or a little bit too late. But we are the quantum mechanics with the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everyone in between. I was looking for something on us. I did a little Google search. And it's quite good. The AI did quite a good little summary of what we're about. I thought was really good. You know, it really got it that they come at it from a believer and a skeptical point of view with fun and wit, and you know, it's very nice. And but yeah, it said, you know, and they try and weave in a bit of quantum mechanics, a bit of science, and a bit of psychology, but always in a simple, easy to understand form, mainly because we don't understand
simple
it. We
yes,
don't understand it. But yeah, so yeah, interesting. After my episode the other week about AI, I thought, oh, they've been quite nice about me. Maybe they're getting worried because I did an episode on them.
The AI is getting conscious about your disdain.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, we will move on to it, but just so as you know, we are going to look at something quite complex that I'm going to tell you why you think the Milky Way might look like home.
Wow.
That's what's coming up today.
Not the chocolate bar.
No, although delicious, and I don't have one often enough.
No, yeah, Milky Ways. I think the little mini ones are quite good. I don't think I could do a whole one. Do they still do the big ones? I don't know.
I think they do the big ones.
Yeah.
I don't. The trouble is with you mean the little ones in like the celebrations? Or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
I just think you miss the texture experience on those little ones.
That's true, because I'm a big fan of a double decker. And something about the mini double deckers, you don't quite get the hit that you do on the big double decker.
No, we haven't opened. I know this is going out. This will be the Monday after Christmas, but in my timeline, it's still before Christmas, and I haven't opened the chocolate yet.
Well, actually, my daughter, I don't know why she did it. I think because she always eats my partner's chocolate. She did a multi-buy of Terry's chocolate orange.
Oh.
So we've got, and weirdly, there's about 15 of them that have just appeared. So we've got 15 chocolate oranges. So that's what we're going to be eating for about a month.
There's an excellent opportunity for you to do an Alan Partridge.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Slightly damaged.
Yeah. I was made promises about stories that were not kept. That's right.
Milky Way. Sorry, I've distracted us from the cosmos to confectionery.
Yes. Well, I'll just dive straight into it. Before I do, I just want to say thank you to Nicola for joining us as a mechanics assistant at patreon.com/TQMpod.
Nicola, thank you.
Yes, thank you. If you gave us as a Christmas present, thank you. If you are now sitting there after Christmas thinking that you're going to meet a friend that you forgot to buy a present for, you can buy them a Patreon subscription to us.
I just had this vision of us just kind of wrapped up under a tree. When is this going to end? When are they going to open us?
Oh,
that sounds wrong.
It does. Yeah,
that sounds really wrong.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Give the gift of quantum mechanics at Christmas.
Yeah, more fragrant than a perfume.
Although if this is going out after Christmas, it's more maybe a birthday thing or a late Christmas present or an early Halloween.
For people like me who have their birthday immediately after Christmas, and you don't want to just give one present, you can give one high-value, low-cost present.
There you go. We'll go to patreon.com/TQMpod to become a patron or follow the link in the show notes. We normally release this episode or every episode a week early there. We do our Patreon exclusive episode, Ben and Peter's Extra Scoop. Good group of people that we've got going there. We post a lot in there. We've got the Discord server, which I always forget to mention. And we might be doing a little Zoom get-together soon. So it's well worth checking it out. And, of course, the main thing is it does help us produce the podcast and keep it on the road and keep us in books and various bits and pieces. Books and batteries.
Books and batteries, that is the main thing. All right, let's get down to it.
Let's go for it.
Now, this had never really occurred to me, but I'm covering some different works today, and one of the books sort of introduced itself this way, and the idea that when you look up at the Milky Way, and I suppose it's just the night sky in general, sometimes you do get a feeling of not just awe and what is out there, but some people are saying, they get this feeling that, you belong. So that could be something, like our ancestors who sat around the fire, looked up at the sky and, wondered as we do, tell stories about beings and strange things that happen up there. Or it could be because it's where we belong.
But we're at one with the universe.
Well, we're going to get there because this is the work of Mark Carlotto, and he has a new theory about human civilization. He's spent 20 years in the aerospace industry, so he's not like one of these people who just has an idea and sort of randomly researches it.
He's got a theory thought.
Credibility. His job was image processing. He wrote algorithms for pattern recognition. He analysed satellite data for defence contracts. And his entire career was built on looking at noise, random static in digital signals and finding hidden structure underneath.
Oh, like patterns and things.
Yeah. In fact, in the 80s, Carlotto became famous for analysing the Viking orbiter images of Mars and the face on Mars.
I bet he did it Carlotto's way, though.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
That's a slightly niche reference.
Oh, God, you've thrown me now. There we go. Right.
There you go, sorry.
That's all right. I'm back on it. Beyond Atlantis, Vestiges of the World's Lost Civilizations is one of his more outlandish books. A lot of his books are pretty straightforward science books, even though they're fantastic. This one, though, he argues that we are walking through a graveyard of ancient, not just people, ancient knowledge, if you like. So Baalbek, the Acropolis, all mathematically precise, all perfect compasses in many ways. I'm going to come on to that. Now, before you start thinking, well, I've heard all of this before, and ancient aliens and maybe some Hancock stuff on Netflix, he's got a different way of looking at this, because he starts off, when I say perfect compasses, he says there's a problem with these compasses and the way they're pointing. They don't point north, but they point to nothing. They point to empty patches of ocean. They point to randomness. Right. So this is where the buildings are aligned to. I'm not talking literal compasses. And often archaeologists put this down to, well, people make mistakes. They're ceremonial buildings. They're ceremonial structures. But Carlotto's math suggests something else. He suggests that they didn't make a mistake. He suggests that the compass was perfect. It's just that the Earth has moved. So I'm going to introduce you to what his idea of is around the way gravity has changed and the way that the Earth has changed, shifting the shell of the Earth, wiping civilization clean every 20,000 years.
I just had this vision, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had this vision that you could see like some ancient builder just finished it, gone, it's perfect. And then he gets woken up the next morning. You never guess what's happened. The Earth's moved. You're kidding me. I spent 30 years building that.
That is not as crazy as it sounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that is not as crazy as it sounds.
Okay.
So let's just... The reason I'm interested in this is recently I took one of my friend's kids to the museum, because there's lots of museums around here. You've probably been to like the Ashmolean and
good Radiohead exhibition on there.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. But they've got an Egyptian hall there. Well, they've got more than one hall, but they've got a lot of Egyptian artifacts there.
Yep.
And you see the ropes, the baskets, the dried grains. It's all sort of talks to you about civilization, doesn't it? You sort of feel like you know them. And then when you go around the corner, there's things from the Old Kingdom era carved from a stone called diorite. Now, if you aren't familiar with diorite, you're not a geologist or a stonemason. On the Mohs scale of mineral hardness, diamond is a 10, granite is 6, 7. Diorite is harder than granite. It's an igneous rock. It's brutal. To cut it today, we use diamond-tipped power saws.
Okay.
So I'm in this hall, and I can see this statue, and it's got this face polished to a mirror sheen. The symmetry is perfect, the curve of the nostril, all excellent. It looked like it had been laser scanned and printed. And it says on the placard, carved with copper chisels and stone hammers, circa 2,500 BC.
There's a problem there, isn't there?
There's a problem. And I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories about, as I say, this could sound very similar to ancient aliens, but pleasingly, this is a different way of looking at it. But I did want to point out that copper is a soft metal. If you hit a piece of diorite with a copper chisel, the chisel will bend. Yeah. You can pound the rock as hard as you like with a stone hammer, and you might get a rough shape, but you won't get that polish. Now, I know that people...
The hammer's not going to win, is it?
No. Now, the way that archaeologists say that we get that mirror sheen is by grinding away using various grades of sand. And it's possible. Of course it's possible. They know a lot more about it than I do. But again, this is where we're going with this and exploring how realistic that really is. Because Carlotto treats the Earth like a geometry problem, and he talks about something called archaeoastronomy. The idea that the ancient people didn't build things randomly. When you build a temple, a pyramid, or a sacred road, you orientate it. Usually you orientate it to the cardinal direction, north, south, east, west, or perhaps to a solstice sunrise, something like that. That's something that we know about Stonehenge, maybe. So he took satellite images of Tutankhamun in Mexico, and he mapped the entire grid of the city. The sheer size, by the way, is incredible. It covers 8 square miles, has the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and a massive central road called the Avenue of the Dead. And he measured the angle of this avenue. It's roughly 15.5 degrees east of north. And for decades, archaeologists have tied themselves in knots trying to explain, well, it's assumed it was an error. They wrote papers about obscure star clusters, sunsets on days that only happen once every 52 years. It felt like they were trying to find a solution that was comfortable, really. Right. That's the way he thinks about it. But Carlotto did something different. He didn't look at the sky. He looked at the pole. And he asked, what if this avenue was pointing true north, just not our north? And this is where we enter the idea of Earth crustal displacement.
Right, okay.
Now, when we talk about poles moving, people think of magnetic pole reversals. That's when the compass needle flips. And when that happens, it's messy, but the physical ground stays put. In fact, you probably heard this theory as the cause of civilization wipeouts in the past. But
and the Bermuda Triangle, things like that.
Yeah. And it is a well-trodden theory that... the poles do shift. Yeah. And in fact, the magnetic North Pole does move around a little bit.
But don't they just flip rather than
Well, that is the theory. That is the theory. Yeah. But he is proposing something else.
Okay.
Crustal displacement is different. His theory was popularized by a guy called Charles Hapgood in the 50s. And you should know, Hapgood wasn't also a fringe guy writing pamphlets. He was a professor. And his book on the subject had a foreword written by Albert Einstein. Okay. I had no idea about this book. Wow. Einstein was apparently fascinated by this idea. And here's the concept. Imagine the Earth is an orange. The solid core is the fruit.
Chocolate orange.
Now look. Right. I have a coffee.
Sorry.
Oh, dude. Well, we can do a chocolate orange if you like.
Does it still work?
Yeah.
Doesn't it have to be squidgy inside, though?
The solid core.
Yeah. The really tasty bit at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The crust, the bit that we live on.
Yeah. It's the bit that says Terry's on.
No. Well, yeah. No, that's the foil.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah.
And the mantle in an orange would be the white pith. So I imagine here the mantle is the slightly melted part of the chocolate.
Yeah.
That is allowing the foil to somewhat slip.
That is okay. Yeah.
Now, usually that foil is stuck tight to the chocolate by friction. I'm going with your analogy.
Okay, sorry. Do you have to bang the Earth on the table before you eat it?
Do you still get that? The last time I had a chocolate orange, I'm going to go back to this theory in a minute.
This is complex enough, and I'm making it so much worse, aren't I?
But there's a secret in the chocolate orange.
Oh, yeah.
That when you bash it on the table in a particular way, as the segments come away, you get left with a piece of rough chocolate that is a bit like an orange flake down the middle.
That's the Earth's core.
That's the best bit.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, I see.
The Earth's core is the best bit, isn't it?
Oh, I see. Yeah. That
it is like a flake. I've never really thought about it as a flake.
Yeah,
before.
it's like a free flake embedded in your orange. And that's the bit you always want to eat.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ben. I really do apologise. So, hold on. If we go back, Einstein's written this thing. Einstein's
he
intro.
wrote the foreword to this book.
Yeah, he's obsessed with it.
And I'm describing
the Earth
crustal
as an orange.
displacement.
Yeah. The Earth's an orange.
The peel being stuck to the fruit by friction.
Yep.
But the Earth is not perfectly balanced. During an ice age, massive glaciers build up at the poles, miles thick.
Okay.
The weight is obviously huge. This creates an imbalance, like taping a lead weight to a spinning basketball. It starts to wobble. Mm-hmm. And eventually the physics reaches a breaking point and the friction lets go and the peel slips. Mm-hmm. So the Earth continues to rotate on its axis, but the outer skin slides over the layers beneath. It might slide 1,000 miles, it might slide 2,000 miles. And it would be the ultimate catastrophe. The continents would move to new latitudes in a matter of days or weeks. So when you made the joke about the guy coming out and saying, I've spent 30 years building this thing.
Yeah,
it could happen, yeah. Right. If North America slides south, the ice caps suddenly find themselves in the temperate zone. They melt rapidly. And what does that sound like? The Great Flood myth.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm thinking Noah's Ark. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah.
If the crust slides, the geographic North Pole changes location relative to the land. Mm. So Carlotto asked the computer, so he's built a program to model this. He models if...
Sorry, before you go into that, just so I'm clear, in that scenario, though, magnetic north would still be the same?
Magnetic north would still be the same because that's controlled by the mantle. Yes.
Yeah, cool. Sorry.
If Teotihuacan was originally pointing north, where was the pole? And by his calculations, when he starts drawing the map, it crosses the United States, goes past our current pole, and landed dead centre in Hudson Bay in Canada.
Wow.
Carlotto then checked other sites. Ziggurats, for example. He looked at old foundations in the Mediterranean. He found dozens of unexplained misaligned sites that all point to that exact spot.
Ah, okay. Wow.
And this implies two things. It implies the North Pole used to be in Hudson Bay.
Yep.
Teotihuacan was built or laid out when the pole was there. Mm-hmm. And geographical data suggests the pole would have been in that region towards the end of the last ice age, somewhere between 12 and 18,000 years ago. Right. This means Teotihuacan is not 2,000 years old, as the guidebooks say. It's potentially 15,000 years old. So what we're looking at when we look at those structures is a legacy, basically, of an epoch that has been forgotten.
Mm. Mm. Wow, that's fascinating. It's such a simple explanation in a way, isn't it? Because it's that perception of actually the Earth's core's moved, but the pole hasn't. But okay, that's mind blowing.
It's going to get weirder.
Okay.
Trust me. So he didn't stop at Hudson Bay. This is where Beyond Atlantis really gets its name from, because he suggests that Atlantis wasn't a city. Atlantis is a name we give to a time period, a lost epoch of high civilization. Okay. So he identified he calls them ghost poles, 4 distinct locations where the rotation point of our planet sat in the past. So the Hudson Bay pole, that was about 12,000 to 18,000 years ago.
Yeah.
The Greenland pole, where we go back 18,000 to 50,000 years ago. The Norwegian Sea Pole, which is 50,000 to 75,000, and the Bering Sea Pole, which is about 75,000 to 125,000 years ago.
So that's pretty worrying to me, because it says in time frames it happens often. And they're quite, in historical, if you think of it as a historical calendar, that's not very long.
No.
And we've had five, you said. 5 different ones?
I've just given you 4. That's what he's identified.
Wow.
But there's a bigger issue here, because that means, 75,000 years ago, common knowledge, accepted knowledge, would say that we were primitive hunter-gatherers. Mm. But when we look at Baalbek in the Lebanon, this is famous for the Roman temple of Jupiter. But if you go there and look at the foundation, the Romans built with nice, manageable bricks. But the platform they built on, called the trilithon, is made of limestone blocks that weigh 800 to 1,000 tons each. And we literally don't have cranes to lift those stones today. Wow. And the stones are fitted so tight you can't get a razor blade between them. Wow. Why did they build them that big? Why lift 1,000-ton stone when a 10-ton stone would do?
So in that sense, these places that you're talking about, they were either almost architecturally appropriated and built upon.
Yes, that is one theory, yes.
But the original, foundations were from a time when it wouldn't have been thought possible.
Yeah, but it's also...
in our history.
But it's not... Yes, okay, but there's another conclusion I'm leading you to here.
Okay.
Which is not just the difficulty of building something that big, because we can find ways of building with 1,000-ton block is not easy, but the point is, why exert yourself?
Why do it?
Why do it? That's what I'm leading to. That's what I want you to have in the back of your mind.
Okay.
Because he says, Carlotto, his alignment analysis shows that the Trilithon Foundation doesn't align to our north. It doesn't align to the Hudson Bay Pole either. It aligns to the Greenland Pole. This suggests the foundation of Baalbek is over 50,000 years old.
Right.
And this changes the psychological profile of our ancestors, because mainstream history paints early humans, as I say, superstitious, frightened cave dwellers.
Yeah.
Carlotto paints a picture of a global civilization that's highly advanced, possessed knowledge of geodesy, which is earth measuring, that rivals our own now. But more to that, they were terrified of the ground beneath their feet.
Right.
Because they knew
it shifted.
And they knew that it was something that they didn't have any control over. And this was an attempt to have some kind of agency over what was basically ravaging civilizations that they knew had come before them.
So almost not a kind of religious belief, but a spiritual belief that if they built it, it might prevent it from happening?
Well, if you know that any moment the ground could slide, the oceans could rise, the cities could be wiped away like sandcastles, what do you build? You don't build skyscrapers because they'll topple over. You don't build wood houses, they will wash away.
Yeah.
You build megaliths. You use the heaviest stones you can find, and you interlock them in polygonal shapes, weird non-square shapes, because that makes them earthquake-proof.
Right.
And you aren't building a temple to a god, you're building a bunker.
Yeah.
And you're also building an anchor, perhaps.
Yeah, like flood defences.
Right.
Almost.
Yeah. So you align them. You obsessively track the pole, because the movement of the pole is the doomsday clock. You need to know exactly where you are on the surface of the sphere so you can calculate the shifts. And this is the image that he is painting of our ancestors. It's an image of this like high-tech, at least high-knowledge anxiety.
Are you going to get onto this? Because the one thing that's going through my mind, and maybe it's my bear of little brain, but that would imply that, that would imply, how did they know where the pole was? In what direction?
Well, that is a good point. I will touch on that a little, but some of that is a mystery to us now.
Okay.
Because this is a civilization that has been lost.
Yeah.
And this is just of course, this is just a hypothesis, but it's a well thought out one. We don't know exactly how they would have planned or done any of this.
But let's assume he's wrong, right? So none of this is true. Are there structures out there that point to our poles that were built by civilizations how they would know where they were?
Well, yes. I mean, of course, modern structures. Because
I get modern structures where we've got compasses.
In the last 2,000 years.
Yeah. Are there kind of, Egyptian, you know what I'm saying? Kind of pre this earth shift or post, this earth shift where it's been stable. Are there structures that point to the poles?
That is a very good question. And
Not one you got at hand.
Not one I've got to hand, no.
Yeah, okay.
No. But because I'm sort of going in a slightly different direction.
Okay, no, that's fine.
And I don't want to make anything up because I'm deriving it from here.
Yep.
The next bit might answer your question in some way.
Okay.
Because what I wanted to, where I was going with that last point was that this basically means that the last shift, the move from Hudson Bay to the current Arctic Circle, which is about 12,000 years ago, corresponds to the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. So that is the cataclysm of fire and ice where the glaciers melted and the seas rose 400 feet. Civilization was erased. All that was left were these foundations, the indestructible stones. This is kind of the point he's making,
right.
is that's probably where it came from. But he then goes on to say that thousands of years later, we are the survivors. And when we were rebuilding our civilization, we basically were pushed back into our caves. We found these massive platforms and we didn't know how to use the machines that built them. And we didn't know the maths behind the alignment.
So we regressed.
Yeah, but to your point, we knew they were special, so we squatted on them. The Romans built Jupiter on top of Baalbek and the Aztecs on top of the ancient Teotihuacan grid.
Yeah.
So we co-opted the ruins like magical artifacts, but we just forgot.
Or maybe just planning permission's really difficult in those days. Well, there's something there already. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
all right, fine. Yeah, okay.
But you do see this all the time. That isn't a particularly striking thing. You know, we have churches that were built on pagan
Yeah.
tombs. You know, we know all about that.
Yeah.
The most dangerous and thrilling part of his inquiry, though, if the Earth is this hostile, if it is a loose shell that periodically destroys all the advanced infrastructure, how did any of that knowledge survive at all?
Yeah.
How did we go from the Stone Age back to the Space Age so quickly? Because that is also a huge quandary.
Yeah.
And this is where we leave the stones behind and look at the only storage device that can survive a cataclysm. And this is why I love this book, because this is my favourite subject. Where do you think we have to look?
Do we have to look up?
We have to look at biology.
Oh, here we go.
In his wider research, where he bridges the gap between Cydonia on Mars and the ruins on Earth, Carlotto hints at a cosmic origin.
Is this where we go all it's ringmakers of Saturn?
No. It's a little bit more saner than that.
Okay.
But I did an episode on panspermia
Yeah.
about 2 years ago. This really pulls in some of the arguments about panspermia,
Yeah.
because he was one of the people. Remember, I said that he had helped map that face on Mars,
Yeah.
and he believed that what we were looking at there was the leftovers of a previous thriving civilization
Right.
that had gone through a similar death. It had lost its atmosphere and dried up.
Right.
But if there was an intelligence there and they saw the end coming, they wanted to evacuate. And where would they go?
Yeah.
Earth is the next life raft over. Those are his words. But you can't just land a ship and expect everything to be fine. Earth's gravity is heavier, the bacteria are different, the radiation is different. So you don't send people, you send seeds. Directed panspermia is what we're talking about.
Right. But it would also, in that argument, it would suggest that both Mars and Earth at one point were both in a kind of Goldilocks zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I mentioned this guy before, Francis Crick. He won the Nobel Prize for discovering the double helix structure of DNA.
Yeah.
And he's one of the sort of godfathers of modern science, really. And in 1973, he published a paper along with Leslie Orgel that argued that the complexity of DNA and the sheer amount of information encoded in it could not have evolved naturally on Earth in the time period available.
Wow.
The maths didn't work. And Crick famously said, life did not evolve first on Earth. He suggests that life was deliberately sent here by an advanced civilization, not invader ships, which is kind of where you get to with your ancient aliens type of thing. but microorganisms, packets of genetic material. It's an arc on a microscopic scale.
So it's more about an alien species survival rather than domination.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And this makes a lot more sense because because there's a load of reasons why you would be rolling your eyes at this point. And one of them might be that you say, well, we don't have any satellites or spacecraft floating around in our solar system. And that is true. It would be much more likely that those things would disappear if it was just a simple device, I say simple inverted commas, device designed to just take these materials from one planet to another. Of course, it would take extraordinary engineering, but we're not talking about, making a Death Star or a space cruiser. We're talking about building basically a missile to deliver some material.
I'm also, I know I'm running with this like a wild pony, but...
that's a really nice image.
Yeah.
I can see your fetlocks are looking lovely in the sunshine.
Yeah, I've got the bit between my teeth. We were talking the other week about, aliens almost laying the ground for an invasion.
Yes.
In a way, if you go with this theory, sending whatever, these packages of DNA, all this other stuff, that could be stage one of laying the ground to relocate from Mars to Earth, but then the catastrophe happened and stage two never happened.
Yes, it could be. And it could also be that...
Because you kind of go, why wouldn't they just come if they can do it, But that would make sense. Oh, we've got to kind of adapt the planet in some way, I don't know, with vegetation, whatever it is, before we can move. And then, maybe Mars was wiped out before they had that chance.
Yeah, and it would, in a way, it would explain part of the idea about the human-alien hybrid breeding program.
And the missing link, in a way, could get into that, couldn't it? Although the timings probably don't work.
Let's just finish what he was saying, because we've jumped into like
we've gone off on
I've
gone off on my wild pony.
But I mentioned this the last time we did panspermia, that 8% of the human genome is made of viruses.
Right.
The endogenous retroviruses, they're called. That's hard to say.
You say. Yeah.
Usually when a virus attacks you, it makes you sick, but sometimes a retrovirus infects a sperm cell or an egg cell and it splices its own genetic code into your DNA. If you survive, you pass this code on to your kids. That's basically what it is.
Right.
And there's another guy who has an unpronounceable name. I'm going to go for it. Chandra Wickramanji and Fred Hoyle. I'm not saying that again.
Right.
He was an astronomer, argued that evolution is driven by these viruses raining down from the comets. That was the main point of my last episode. They argued that the new genetic updates are literally falling from the sky, and we discussed the anomaly of Rh negative blood, rhesus negative blood.
Yep.
And just to restate that and how weird that is, 15% of humans have rhesus negative blood. They lack the rhesus antigen, which is a protein found in rhesus monkeys and almost all other primates. And that means if we had evolved from a common ancestor in Africa, why do 15% of us not have this primate protein? Right. And here's the other really weird thing about that. If a rhesus negative mother becomes pregnant with a rhesus positive baby, which has the primate blood type, her body will identify the baby as a foreign enemy and she'll produce antibodies and attack the fetus.
Right.
It's called hemolytic disease. Wow. In nature, animals do not reject their own offspring for blood reasons. It doesn't happen.
Yes, aren't we, if I remember it rightly, aren't we the only species that has that quirk?
Yes.
Yeah,
we are. And there is a deep implication of hybridization. It implies two blueprints were mixed together. And you could say one was terrestrial and one is not. And when you put this on top of Carlotto's work, you start to build an unusual picture.
Sorry, I don't understand it properly, but if you went with my theory of that was phase 1 and they never got to phase 2, sending viruses could be phase 1, couldn't it?
Yes, it absolutely could be. Yeah. But just to restate where we are, we've come to the point where Colotto shows us that a civilization existed here in deep antiquity. They were obsessed with alignment and they knew the dangers of the planet.
Yeah.
And perhaps they were the seeded ones, perhaps they were the first attempt. They built the megaliths and they tried to stabilise the grid. But the crustal displacement wiped them out. But the DNA survived. The data storage survived.
Bingo!
Hey! And then these, some recent publications by some scientists at Harvard prove that DNA is the most efficient storage medium in the universe we know of. They managed to store 700 terabytes of data in a single gram of DNA.
Right.
So if you wanted to preserve the sum total of your civilization's knowledge, the maths, the geometry, the history, you don't put it in books. You can't put it on hard drives. You put it into the code of a self-replicating biological machine. You write it into the blood of the species.
Can we include a chocolate orange when we do ours? I don't want to lose that.
Oh, if you've fallen asleep while you're listening to this, you're going to wake up thinking that the Earth is made by terries and your genetic code is somehow written in the cocoa.
Yeah.
But the conclusion that I reached when I did that former episode is the same conclusion that I'm coming to here, which is that junk DNA isn't junk, it's an encrypted file. And it might just be, and this is crazy, but this is what has been suggested, a manual on how to build the pyramids, how to stabilize the crust, and maybe even how to travel back to the stars. It's just that we haven't found the password yet. Wow. It's possible. It's possible. I know that sounds bad, but it's possible. But when we sort of talk about the Beyond Atlantis ideas, I think that it's not a resolution. It's not a definite thing. There is still so much in there that doesn't quite ring true with what other people have been saying. This is very much an idea that he has built, and as I say, he's built it on the shoulders of other people. So this isn't a unique well, it's a unique idea, but it's not completely out there. But it does mean that when we look at the ruins and think, oh, look at those, our ancestors, they just trying to pile up rocks. These alignments that he's pointing out show that they weren't primitive. They were trying to synchronize these. They weren't necessarily even buildings. They could have been stone machines. And they were aware of their place in the cosmos in some way that we don't know and we are numb to. And it offers a new lens on history. It suggests that humanity isn't like a fleeting accident on a wet rock. It does suggest we're tougher than that. It suggests that perhaps we are, from a cosmic constant, if you like. That's a word that was used. So the reason I said, when you look up at the Milky Way, that homesickness, that's because your DNA really did come from somewhere out there. And I've got a fantastic, and I mean fantastic, piece of science that was published about 3 months ago that points to more evidence of this that I'm going to cover in the extra scoop.
Ooh.
But
you big tease.
But this was one of the things that I covered in this, and it's kind of a separate but complementary story, so I'm not including it here.
Yeah.
But I just want you to take away this idea that these objects, they were fulfilling a purpose that is being lost because the crust has shifted.
Right.
And those changes do seem to map to something. And the fact that we have this mythical land, I suppose that we call it Atlantis, changing that, because Atlantis, right, everybody talks about Atlantis as being this technologically advanced civilization. Even Pliny had written about it, and the idea was that it had vanished beneath the waves. Now you take all of that symbolism and you take all of that legend And rather than applying it to a single island, you apply it to a time span and a way of thinking, and indeed, like not a race of people, but an existence of a certain period in our past. Then it does start to make sense. So we did lose Atlantis beneath the waves, but it wasn't because it sank as an island.
Yeah.
It's because the Earth shifted. And we had a melting of the ice caps because the ice caps moved to a temperate zone. And then we lost all that information and knowledge. And that could be the reason why we don't have any written records of, observing other living creatures on Mars, or being able to understand how we make a face on a piece of diorite. We still don't understand how we did that in the past. And I don't know. In this, I've always wanted to get closer to some kind of explanation for things, whether it be a poltergeist or whether it be for a museum artifact that doesn't seem to make any sense. But I also am very, very nervous that people are going to listen to this and go, oh, well, you're basically just taking one idea that is kind of in the conspiracy theory world and spinning it. I'm really not. This is a very different way of looking at things. This is very different to an advanced civilization coming down and teaching us how to build pyramids, because that's something that we sort of touched on a while back. When you talk about these other ancient alien type ideas, you're almost talking of like a cargo cult. So people are suggesting that it's a reproduction of an alien spacecraft landing site, or even the craft itself. People have suggested the pyramids, there's a lot of reports of pyramid shaped craft. People are saying, well, it's almost like a cargo cult because they're building a pyramid shape on Earth to mirror these crafts. And all of that does make some kind of sense when you look at it in a two-dimensional way. But when you really dig into the science behind it, like these guys have done, that doesn't really make any sense. And this is a lot subtler and a lot stranger than those ideas.
But if you excuse the pun, and I don't mean it as one, this idea seems a lot more grounded to me.
It is very grounded. It is very grounded.
Because I can, stuff coming from Mars, put that aside for 1 second. That's where it gets closer to jumping the shark. But that whole stuff about the poles moving, or the land moving, not the poles, that's really fascinating and would explain so much. And I was thinking while you were talking about it, we did an episode a while ago on people who discovered things and just weren't believed. And I can't remember his name, but the guy who came up with the theory of continental drift.
Yeah.
And, he, I think, either the late 50s or even the 60s, the scientific community thought he was mad.
Yes,
and
correct.
That he'd had this just stupid idea and didn't know what he was talking about. So you can see how this simple thing of, it wasn't pointing in the wrong direction. It's just that the land has moved, not the poles. You could see why that could happen, right? If we didn't understand continental drift in the 50s or 60s, then yeah, of course.
Yeah, yes, completely.
I've got a bit overexcited, knocked my mic over. I was also thinking, in a way, it's a shame he focused the title on Atlantis, because that almost feels a bit like, oh, yeah, okay, here we go. It's a lot deeper than that. Atlantis is, in terms of what you've been talking about, is a factor. It's not the main element, though, is it?
No, I think it's probably...
Help sales, maybe.
Yeah, I think it helps sales. I think the Earth's shifting crusts and how it happens is a much less alluring title, likely to sell a percentage less books. But I do think the reason why it's in there is because it captures the idea that Atlantis isn't it isn't mythological.
Magical.
thing.
It was just a place it moved.
Yeah. Well, it was a time. It was a timeline that moved. It was a timeline.
You know, when you may not know the answer to this, but you know, when you were talking about these foundations that are pointing in the wrong direction because of this theory, surely there's ways that we can test how old they are. That would, because by implication, at that time, the pole would have been somewhere else, wouldn't it? If you go with it, can we time trace some?
Yeah, well, that's what he was saying. When you, if you assume that these, so those huge 1,000-ton base rocks, you can't obviously carbon date a rock. So our idea that this is 2,000 years old is based on archaeological finds, but when that was his point was if people say they just got north wrong, and then he compares the idea that the other sites were also pointing north, they all converge in this one point. So that's how he's able to sort of say the
stone
the time
itself wouldn't tell us anything.
No, all that we can find out is from handwritten records and things like food and such around it. I mean, we keep changing how old we think Stonehenge is, and we keep changing what we think it was there for. Yeah, like in our lifetime, I think I've heard 50 explanations as to what Stonehenge is. These things, like I said, they were co-opted to put other things on top of them, and you can see that in some of the sites. Like I think it's pretty well known that some of the more recent work on them is much shoddier than the previous work on them. You get beautifully aligned rocks, and then you get something which is an analogue of that, but done much worse. You know, and the
cowboy builders were in.
Yeah, right. And how is it that knowledge degrades? It should build. You should get better stonemasons. And that hasn't happened. But that is, I avoided that because that is one of the contentions of the Ancient Aliens program. What he is saying is, we do get the ages of these things wrong. And, but that isn't because we've been handheld by somebody. It's for this very specific reason.
Yeah, they just screwed up on the monolith trust pilot, didn't they?
Yeah.
You got the rubbish ones in. Wow, that's such a mind-blown idea. I love it. And actually, I know I was saying the Mars kind of thing slightly jumps the shark. I think that's it's not jumping the shark. It's just taking it to the next level. But I love that idea that it wasn't there's some civilization that's completely disappeared that are completely separate to us, and we've never found pure evidence of it. That idea, or like the Ancient Aliens. Oh no, it was the aliens. Kind of breeding program or coming here and giving us the knowledge. I like that idea. It came in a more organic way as a kind of survival mechanism from Mars to Earth, and for whatever reason, it's a more natural process in that sense, more evolutionary natural process, which is fascinating, I think.
Well, it tells of people who had different anxieties about their mortality.
Yeah.
And I like that idea of the reason these things are so big is because you're trying to build an anchor.
Yeah.
And that is, similar to what happened, if you follow the line through, happened on Mars. But I don't want you to confuse. So Mars, it looks like there was potentially something different because their entire atmosphere got ripped away. The idea is just that there is some simulacra between the notion of survival rather than... So
he's not claiming that Mars was destroyed because of movement of the land and the pole.
No. Okay. No, he's just building in a picture of... I wonder if that's why. And there's various other nuances you can add to it. Like, did those people... Did they know that the Earth and Mars, were they were they observing each other? Was there life on both of them? And therefore they observed what had happened in those cataclysms, and they were preparing for a different sort of cataclysm, And they wanted to then transfer, even with the knowledge of that that had happened, and they were trying to somehow encode additional safety into their DNA. There's loads of kind of weird tangents you can go off on and speculate, but there is just no way to know.
It would have ruined the David Bowie song as well.
Yeah.
Is there life on both of them?
It always comes down to, we always get to Bowie, don't we?
Everything leads to Bowie.
Everything leads to Bowie.
Yeah, all roads lead to Bowie.
But the one thing I'm going to leave you with is David Hancock has done a lot of work in this area, and he's got his own ideas about things. But something that is definitely worth noting is, with all of these things, when I started talking about the sculpture with the smooth face, we still haven't really found any of the tools which would really point to how any of this could happen. We've found drills, of course we've found drills, and we found the sands and the various chisels and whatever, but we haven't found the smoking gun of the giant drill that could cause some of the impacts that we've seen on rocks in Egypt, for example. We haven't found an exact makeup of sand that would make it practical in one lifetime to smooth an entire piece of diorite. Like we just haven't. And there could be many reasons for that. One good example of a potential reason is that there were tools that were made out of meteorites with a very hard materials in them. And we've just lost them. And we're not looking for pieces of meteorite, even though they might be drill-shaped. They've just been lost into the ground. It's perfectly feasible, absolutely feasible. But the point is, we still haven't found how those things were really, really done. We found generally, and we've got engravings of how the ancient Egyptians, they used rope and they used weights. Yeah, we've got all of that. Understand that. But the real minutiae of how these things happened, and with his theory that we've just been speaking about, is completely feasible that the pyramids were a ham-fisted attempt at building upon something that somebody else had already done with their sophisticated tools that had been lost in that cataclysm. And the reason that there is such a big difference between them is that the Egyptians were using just the tools that we know of, and the things that happened from the past are mixed up with their heritage. Again, I'm not an expert. That is just something that I read in there. The point is, it's still a huge mystery.
I mean, you've got me worried though now. You've got me worried that this has happened 4 times in such a short space of time.
125,000 years, yeah.
I mean, we must be due one, are we not? I wonder what makes it move.
Well, it's the sheer weight of the ice.
Right. Okay.
So
that's not a problem.
No, at the moment we're not in an ice age scenario.
Yeah.
But when we do move into an ice age scenario, that could be how it ends. Could be.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really scary. And like you said, it how quickly it would happen. How I remember seeing something about methane gas and kind of how climate destruction happens, and you think it would be a gradual process, but basically, if climate change gets to a certain point, almost quickly the whole thing just goes off, right?
Yeah.
Our environment changes almost overnight in a way. Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Wow, really good research, and you've got more on the scoop, right?
Yeah, I've got something called the Bennu breakthrough.
Bennu breakthrough. Bennu Gesserit.
And this will add a little bit more weight to the panspermia idea.
Brilliant.
Which I'm just fascinated by, mainly because, as I've previously said, It's the device used in Star Trek to explain why aliens all have 5 fingers.
Right, yep.
And I really love that idea of like, again, science fiction predicting a reality. I think is really, it's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
Again, we have to remain open-minded, but I think what I'm about to tell you in the extra scoop, it's fresh evidence. It's interesting.
Well, come and join us at patreon.com/TQM pod, or click the link in the show notes. We'd love to see you there, and it'd be great to support us. Thank you. Next week, I think I am going to take us, one of my obsessions, into the world of dreams again.
Nice. I think we need something a little bit lighter. That this has all been a bit apocalyptical.
That's good, though. Really good. Really enjoyed it, though.
Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed the end of the end of the world of the apocalypse. It was great.
Oh, we just need a poltergeist that rattles doors again. Maybe we'll do a poltergeist story in January for my birthday.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that, and we'll see you next week on the Quantum Mechanics.
Yeah. Oh, and Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?